by my self-published book, Rain. It is a psychological thriller about a group of young adults in a psych ward who get this new counselor that's trying to understand their mental illnesses and trying to understand them. But then the counselor shortly learns that these kids might not be crazy and that this place is actually making them crazy, all the while trying to figure out what's going on with him and his psychological demons and his problems. If you would like more information about this book, be sure to hit the link in the description box below. Supporting me and buying these books actually helps. Teen Wolf Season 3, Episode 13, Anchors. So Scott and his pack, Lydia, Allison, Scott, Stiles, because they were the three who did the whole under the water sacrifice thing in the tub of ice for their parents, and they're working with Stiles' dad to find Malia, a missing girl they think might have been attacked by or murdered by a coyote. Stiles tells Scott about his dad, basically trying to get Stiles' dad fired. Scott's mom has to relax him because he gets really frustrated and the claws come out while around his dad. And Scott will always and forever be bae. Like, let's be honest. Scott ends up coming face to face with Malia in her form, and it ends with Derek and his uncle being tortured. Episode 14, More Bad Than Good. Opening scene, Derek and his uncle are being tortured. Stiles shows Scott the stuff he found of Malia and her hideout. Stiles ends up having a panic attack and Scott has to calm him down. Scott saves Kieran from Malia, and this girl comes to help rescue Derek and his Peter. Next up, the twins help Scott with his alphaness, and Isaac helps Allison. The gang meet up, squad goals, to find Malia and prevent the dad from killing his coyote daughter. Stiles and Lydia figure out the significance of the doll, plus the significance of Malia, and Allison, with the help of Isaac, takes Malia's dad down with a tranquilizer. Scott activates that alpha power, and Malia in her coyote form backs down and she turns back into a human. Stiles is like, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm just like, yes, right, exactly, yes. We love a alpha Scott finally tapping in. Next, Brayden, she pulls out this box from the mountain ash that Derek and his uncle. Next scene, someone ends up eating or ripping out some mini plant leaf that sprouted from the Nebaton tree, and out sprouts fireflies, and these demons basically appear in the episode. Episode 15, Galvanize. So Scott's mom is really so perfect, like she's bae. So she's in the hospital, and the staff, and they're having to treat the psychotic guy, and Scott and Stiles play and plan their mischief night prank on Coach. The twins try to get back into Scott's good graces because they need a pack and they're omegas. Coach gets pranked, and of course he's pissed. Gotta love Coach. Prior to that, Scott is told he's a hot girl and to basically ask Kira out by Stiles. The next scene, the Gary guy opens up with a full stomach of flies, and he basically attacks the doctors and all the staff. The pack learns that Lydia has been hearing the flies too, and Stiles and the gang search through the school, and Stiles rings the alarm to get everyone out, but Coach ends up catching him, which is really funny because he pulls him by the ear and drags him out of the school. Derek and his uncle Peter test out the claws. Kira's dad invites Scott over for dinner, and their house is nice as hell, actually. Like, the dad is a teacher, and I'm just like, he has a nice house. There's no way. What was he doing before he was teaching? Because there's no way. I mean, Scott's mom is a doctor, and their house is not even anything like that. And the uncle digs into Derek's neck. The creepy guy, he kidnaps Kira. Scott learns that Kira has power and can connect to electricity. And Isaac is attacked by the ninja demons. Episode 16, Illuminated. So Isaac tells Allison and Arden what he saw, and Arden is shown opening the box with the broken mask. Also, new intro tempo change, and I did not like the intro for this episode. Ew. The twins decide to have a party, and Stiles tells Scott's dad, like, I know your little secret. Scott on the motorcycle next scene is like so hot. Like, I can't deny it. Like, I love a Scott McCall. I love a Scott McCall's mom, and I'm here for it. The twins show Lydia, well, one of the twins, he shows Lydia, like, hey, look at this party. You love it, right? And she basically straight up plays him, and she's like, if I wanted to go to a rave, I go back to the 90s. I love Lydia when she's a total biatch. Like, yes, I love it. Allison and Isaac flirt, and the demons come for Lydia, and they end up silencing her scream. Scott tells Kira that the being around her that he saw, it's not creepy or scary or anything. It looks like a fox to him. And Lydia, the twin, Isaac, we learn, is basically marked by this 5 behind their ear, and Derek roars, and Scott hears it. The other twin ends up being marked by the demons disappear, and the sun rises, and in the end we learn that Stiles was actually the one who wrote Kira's name on the chalkboard. So, episode 17, Silverfinger, the dad tells his story of how he had the encounter with the ninja, faced demons, and by the dad I mean Argent. The intro song also has gone back to normal, thank goodness. I don't know what was going on that last episode. Maybe they were trying to do something new. Scott shows Kira his wolf look. Scott ditches the twins to be with Kira, and Isaac ends up going to meet Takashi. He's super nervous, but then Allison kind of helps him out a bit. Melissa, aka Scott's mom, aka love of my life, helps Stiles get rest, but later finds out his symptoms are similar to his deceased mom. Kira shows Scott a look based on her abilities. Scott's dad confronts him about sneaking into his office. The demon ninjas show up to fight Scott and Derek for a bit. Argent and Allison go meet the guy who tells them who and what the face mask people are. The man tells them that the ninjas basically can't be killed, and then he warns Argent to let the Oni destroy the Kitsune, even if it's his own daughter. And he looks at her, and it's completely foreshadowing, spoiler alert, to her death. The Omni get in, and Scott tells his pack to do nothing as they check if any of them has a dark spirit. They all pass the vibe check, of course, but then later on Stiles is approached, and he attacks and kills one of them because he's basically possessed with the darkness. Scott ends up coming to check in on him, and he ends up not having any idea that Stiles is possessed. Episode 18, Riddled. Stiles calls Scott and tells him he's lost and confused. They tell Stiles' dad, and Lydia starts to hear things through the strings that she's pulling in Stiles' evidence room. Thus, they learn about the mental health center where Stiles is. They end up finding Stiles. The twins tells Derek of his suspicion about Stiles being the darkness, and he doesn't believe him, saying that skinny, defenseless, puny Stiles, why him? And how it would be sort of absurd. Lydia pretends to not hear the sounds in the end, and Derek comes to talk to Kira. Lydia is having hypersensitivity to all sounds while at school. Stiles is being tested and studied on. Derek comes to Scott and tells him the town needs protecting by him. Scott's dad is told the bad news about Stiles' brain. The bandage man comes back to Stiles with the riddle and unbandages himself. And it's him, his shadow, and thus the answer to the riddle. Stiles escapes and comes face to face with Kira's mom, who knows the shadow within him. The mom says and ends with basically, if the Ani can't defeat you, I know someone who can, I know someone who will. And it cuts to Kira and the electric wire coming to shock her. Scene. Episode 19, Zetharia Vulpina. The scene opens up with Deaton, and he goes to meet up with the Japanese. He tricks them and ends up poisoning him and gets his sample okay, yes, Deaton. Kira stops the electric cord, and her eyes glow, and her and Scott have a moment. Isaac is injured really badly and put into the hospital. He ends up, Scott and Allison discover that he's not healing once they visit. Kira tells Scott about her abilities, and Scott and the twins come encounter with Dark Stiles. Stiles tells them he doesn't remember anything, and Lydia watches her mom talking to Peter. Coach ends up being shot with an arrow, is panicking, and it's hilarious. He's like, I'm gonna die. Prior, Lydia and Allison go pay Peter a visit. Peter's basically standing up there gaslighting and lying through his teeth, and Allison is just like, he's insane. Peter offers Lydia a deal, but of course for a price. Lydia tells Peter he's not just an uncle. The office explodes due to the bomb being set after Paris tells Officer Zelinsky that it's not on the bus. Paris is so fine, y'all. And Lydia and Allison discover Malia is the daughter of Peter. Scott and Kira fight the Ani. Scott gets stabbed, and as soon as they're inside and Kira tries to get the sword, Dark Stiles returns. I kind of like Dark Stiles, not gonna lie, but I don't like how he's like hurting Scott at all. They should have let the Oni take him, but good thing Deaton shows up and poisons him and helps Scott. He tells Scott, though, the fox is poisoned but not dead. Episode 20, Eco House. So Stiles decides to check himself into a mental home. Stiles then finds Malia there and she ends up attacking him. Next thing you know, the counselor shows up. Arden and Derek discuss the berserkers while locked in cells. The counselor tells Stiles to stay awake. Meanwhile, the pack plans to get, steal a car. Stiles teams up with Malia. She wants to turn back into a coyote, and Stiles needs help getting the key to a room. Allison and Scott come for the finger and Kira, and that crossbow that Allison wields is fire. The twins come to help out. Stiles and Malia find nothing, but they end up kissing. And it was her first kiss. Like, oh, how cute is that? And being that it was with Stiles, like, so perfect. They end up getting it in. Scott stops the twins from killing the guard. Scott, being Scott, is like, we're here to save a life, not anyone. Stiles and Malia find the kitsune, but one of the crazies, this dude named Oliver, drugs and tases them, mainly just drugs Malia. Stiles' darkness is invited back in for Malia's sake, and Dark Stiles is it. Like, I love Stiles and his smart self, his goofy self, but the Dark Stiles is like something else. Malia leaves Eichen House, blue eyes and all, after the counselor, I presume, tells her where to go. Prior to that, Deaton tells Scott that Stiles needs a new host, and Scott is like, he has to be changed to a werewolf. Imagine, like, werewolf Stiles would be so cool, so hot. Just imagine him with blue eyes. And that's the end of that episode. Episode 21, The Fox and the Wolf. So first off, let me preface by saying that this season is completely brutal and really, really good. So it opens up in this episode with two soldiers removing bodies off a cargo and the kitsune showing up to kill them. Dark-sided Stiles comes for Kira's dad at the school in search for the foxtail. They find out Kira's mom is like 93 years old and is the girl in the photo. They find out the kitsune came from actually the mom. A flashback starts up of the mom when she was younger. Kira's mom tells them that foxes and wolves usually don't get along. Derek and Arden are being released, and his dad tells them about the CAT scans in Stiles' brain in comparison to his mom's. I love that Arden is so very precise. Mom tells a story of how the military or army people were selling medicine on the black market, and these people had no medicine, so it equaled more deaths, and so people begin to riot. They find out, or at least the mom did, that the elder lady was actually a wolf and was bitter, and it's why she always was just low key and chill and play chess. And Allison confides in Sheriff Zelinsky about not knowing anything, about being scared, etc., and he consoles her. But, like, to be honest, he didn't really console her well enough, I feel like. I don't know, I guess because they think Allison is just tough, like, she didn't get, like, the proper console she should have gotten. I mean, also because her mom said maybe there was no motherly figure. It would have been best for a motherly figure or a woman to console her, because I don't know. Just didn't seem like he consoled her as much. Like, if that was Stiles, it would have been a whole different situation in consolement. She tells them how they took everyone's body and was just going to cover up what happened and how she wanted to seek revenge. She called to the ancestors and they delivered, except it didn't come to possess her. It actually possessed her ex-lover who was wrapped in bondage. Her and the wolf elder woman end up stopping him. The pack and sheriff and Argent find the kitsune layout of them in chess game form. So Kira's mom is shown running to the Embaton tree carrying a jar with a firefly in it, and Kira is given the sword weapon from her mom. Stiles' dad shows up to be greeted by Stiles in the next scene, and it ends, but a long, drawn-out episode this seems. It was really good, but I'm assuming the flashback story made it seem longer than usual. However, I do feel it fit and it was much needed. Episode 22, The Void. So Dark Stiles is bad ASS. I know the actor had fun with the new role / character. He's whooping their butts. So he grabs the electric cord of the taser Allison tries to use like it's nothing and whoops Derek. The Dark Ninjas show up for Stiles. Dark Stiles ends up stabbing himself with one of the tails and flies escape his body, and what a great start to the episode. He says, "Chaos is coming." This scene is dark and promising AF, and so good. And they end up capturing Stiles, and he's starting trouble and being messy, bringing up to Melissa, Scott's mom, that he knows why Scott's dad really left. So eventually Scott and Lydia call and invite Peter over to handle Stiles because Scott is afraid about turning him. Derek is possessed and torturing Argent, and Lydia and Scott go into Stiles' mind. Scott realizes it's a dream, well, trick, not really, and it's not real, and so does Lydia with the help of Peter. They end up in the white room where Stiles and Bandage Guy, the Kitsune, are playing Chinese chess. Meanwhile, Kira and Allison are trying to help snap the twins out of it. Argent releases something from his chain, and Scott, with the help of Lydia, tells him or howls, and it snaps everyone out of it. Lydia whispers Malia's name to Peter, and Stiles vomits the bandages up, and the Oni appears, which ends up being Stiles, and Lydia is taken. Episode 23, Insatiable. So Deaton in this intro scene is removing flies from Isaac and the twins' mouth. Stiles is checked and he's not a Nogitsune anymore. Kira's mom tells her to learn how to play the Chinese checkers if she wants to save her friends. I think it's called Bodoku. It's Korean chess, actually. And Stiles' dad is happy to see him. Sheriff goes to talk to Meredith, but she's gone. Allison and Isaac find a clue from Lydia as a fog message in the car window. Next scene, Coach is upset about the hospital bill, and Meredith shows up in the class. Meanwhile, the twins have been shot, and Meredith tells Coach about how people will die. Derek comes to rescue the twins, and they come for Meredith. Turns out Coach knows the man who comes for Meredith, and the man's a total a-hole. I don't like the man for trying to play Coach because of his job position. Skip to Meredith listening to the piano chords for a message and the guy creeping up on her. But Coach, tases him, yes, go, Coach. And they get marathon. The pack does. I don't know what that says. Allison basically says her foreshadowing goodbye to her dad. Scott is at the house. Meanwhile, Stiles and Isaac try to get something out of Meredith information-wise. And she's like, Lydia doesn't want to be found. Scott's dad tells him what happened when he was young and the twins are basically dying. Scott, being Scott, literally so great, so perfect, is like, I've hurt myself a million times. Save your apology and see you when I graduate, if you even bother to show up. Allison is making bullets. Allison calls Argent like they found Lydia, and Argent is like, wait, don't do anything. And she said, there's no time, Dad. Thus the gang is back at Oaks Creek ready to save Lydia. So Stiles ends up gaining control over the Ani which was way too easy. You gotta be kidding me. Stiles and Scott come to Lydia's rescue, and she's like, no, y'all basically shouldn't have came. Allison's boat ends up hitting one of the Oni and kills them, but she ends up being stabbed shortly after. Thus, Allison dies in Scott's arm. Her first true love, and it hurt to watch. And Argent, he ran up too late and had to see her dead. So, episode 24, The Divine Move, the final episode. They're just still in the police office. Scott, Lydia, Isaac, and Scott. I don't know why I wrote that twice. Scott flashes back to Argent telling him what to say. Argent comforts Isaac. Derek gives the twins a pep talk to stand and fight and prove themselves what they want so badly to be a part of the pack. The Ani, along with Dark Stiles, are at the hospital slicing and dicing people up. And Melissa ends up getting hurt. Isaac tells Argent about Allison's plan and the arrows. Derek plus the twins go up against the Dark Stiles and two ninjas, and so does Scott and his pack. This scene also reminds me so much of Kill Bill, especially that snow and just the essence of the scene. They have stabbed and infected almost everyone. Stiles ends up learning that it's an illusion and tells his friends to stop fighting. One of the twins ends up being stabbed. Dark Stiles turns to dust after Scott bites him, and they ultimately save the day. Aiden ends up dying. Scott cries in his mom's arms. Argent and Isaac leave, and Malia shows up. Danny and the other twin break up, and he's like, I can't date a werewolf. Like, Danny was hip the whole time. Okay, Danny. Derek is shot, and surprise, surprise, it's by Kate, who's back and is now a werewolf. And oh my god, what a season, what an episode. Great. 5 stars.